Hi, and welcome back to Cannabis Talk with the 420 Realtors. We have a lot of drama to get to, a lot of drama to talk about. All kinds of things going on in the New York cannabis world and also in New Jersey. I guess let's start with yesterday's raid of Empire on the Lower East Side, and everybody has mixed emotions about and feelings and thoughts about the legal side, the gray side, and whatever that opinion may be. It's still, in my opinion, I think, if what's coming out is true as far as no warrants and, all that kind of thing, if that's the case, then, there should really be some support for them because, at the end of the day, if we allow certain agencies to step on our rights and just start walking in our places of business and our homes and things like that, where does it end? I don't know. How do you feel about all this?
When you said jump right into it, wow, you really just jumped right into it. Like, that is the biggest drama, right, of what's happening in the last 24, 48 hours. But I kind of, for the people who don't know, what's an an overview of what happened, and then we could kind of talk about both sides.
Yeah. So basically from, obviously I wasn't there, but from my understanding, it was, I believe, state police that came in and did not give a warrant, arrested both the owner and the co-owner for obstruction, which the video I saw, I didn't see any obstruction. John, I did not even see was there. Wow. He just walked into his place and they arrested him for obstruction for walking into his own place. His sister, who is the co-owner, seems to I didn't see any interference with her either. She, from what I saw in the video, just by what I saw, what everybody else saw, is her coming up and asking to see a warrant, like anybody else would normally do.
So they're treating cannabis like criminals again, basically.
Right, which is totally going down the wrong road.
Right. It's the complete opposite of what we're trying to do, right? Like a legitimate business right.
Right. And I personally, look, there's all kinds of thoughts on this. There's some people that have licenses that feel, we waited and did it the, quote unquote right way. I don't know, to be honest. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not saying I know what the right or wrong way is to do. Yeah. What I am going to say is this, is what the facts of the matter is when this first all opened up, 2.5 years ago, however long it's been now, there was no guidance from anyone, the governor, the mayor, police, anybody. And as everybody knows, John, who's the owner of Empire, was vocal about this, asking for help, asking for guidance before he opened up. I remember him clearly being on TV and saying, look, we sent letters, and my attorney have sent letters, certified letters to the governor's office asking for guidance and rules and what the regulations are going to be. And there was no response. And as my memory recollects, if I'm remembering this correctly, it was almost a year before there was any kind of, information sent out of, like, if you don't have a license and you open, you may be, I think it was worded as you may not be able to apply for a license. But by that time, there'd already been a year gone by.
Right.
So, as a business person, as I am, an entrepreneur, and there's plenty of them, obviously, here in New York City and in the cannabis industry, you have a decision to make. What do? Do I sit around and wait for guidance? They said this was legal according to what his and everybody's attorneys could look up at the time because of how things were opened up and wide open. It was legal at the time to do that. So what do? As a person, as some of these license holders, they chose to wait. Some people chose to open. It's a business decision, basically,
That's exactly what it is. And because of what covers it, what encompasses it, is what makes it so crazy that's what they did. And they walked in like that. When someone was so vocal about it so recently, it feels almost on purpose, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the optics are not good.
Right.
And no matter what the reasoning for it is, I'm hearing rumors of, they're rumors. People are saying, well, such and such is opening their new licensed location down the block. And maybe that's why they came. But either way, if they did come and they were coming for that reason, if they didn't have a warrant and they didn't do it correctly,
Right.
you
It's
know,
like, right, if you can't say what you're doing it the wrong way, right? Like, how does that show what you're trying to do? If you're
right,
going to do
you
it
can't
legal?
set a precedent
Right.
and you can't set a status quo if you're yourself also doing the wrong thing.
Right.
And at the end of the day, when you look at what caused this whole problem, the problem with the smoke shops, the problem with as people see as illegal shops, and the issues that the license holders are having between they're having a lot of issues, obviously.
Right.
It all comes back to the same thing: the opening.
Right.
Who was in charge of the opening? Like who was responsible for setting everything up and setting the guidelines and setting the rules and all that? That's what you have to come back to. And who does that trace back to? That's the question. I think we know the answer without having to speak it. But it is these are just the facts. I'm not
Yeah.
saying who's right, wrong, or indifferent, but we're at this place in time now, and everybody's having issues. And why is that? And you look at other states like, say, Missouri, who opened up the same month as New York did. Well, as New York opened up, as New York got our guidance, and they've raised billions of dollars in tax money.
Yeah.
And we're still arguing amongst ourselves of how we should be handling this.
And that's what I was gonna say. Like, again, if it's the optics of it, you have to tread carefully, right? Like, I don't know. Everyone's going through it. I just feel like there's obviously more, right, that we don't know. And
Of course, there's always more.
right. And we have to. These are the struggles of this. It's just crazy that just happened.
Right, exactly. And I feel as though personally, in my opinion, that if they're going to start doing this and start wanting to set regulation and all that, and like enforce things, there has to be some kind of structure to it.
Yeah.
And going after, if you're going to start going after illegal shops, then maybe you should go after the ones that are really running like the Wild Wild West and
Right.
aren't paying taxes and things of that nature, like a lot of smoke shops.
You're not trying to do a legitimate business.
Right. You look at places like, like Empire and like Metro Bud to say bring them up too, because they run a similar structure of a club. They pay taxes. They make sure everybody in their place is over 21. All their bud is clean bud, and they're trying to do the right thing also. From what I understand, those guys, were told that they had a right to apply for a card license because of their history, and this is just what I heard, and that they applied after they were told that they would be within the eligible guidelines for it, and after they applied, they were then told, "Oh no, you don't fall within that guideline." So again, I wasn't there for the application, whatever. I mean, I just know who these guys are and their history. And I feel like as though if you don't know them, they're both veterans of the military that have both been wounded in combat. And me personally, I have a lot of friends and grew up around military people. And if military people can't get taken care of,
Yeah.
and veterans that were wounded in war can't get taken care of, and veterans that were wounded and went to jail for cannabis can't get taken care of, then who's going to get taken care of?
Yeah, and I think also that if someone is so vocal about it and wanting help or assistance or anything and discussing it, and then you attack them in this way, it just, again, it's the optics, right? Like, just, we have to, everyone's, there's a lot of stuff happening in New York, and I think everyone's feelings are really, really high, and that's,
The temperature is very high in the city right
Yeah.
now as far as cannabis. It's a
The comment section in a lot of those videos are crazy.
right, and just the people I've been talking to over the last week or two. Everything's kind of at a boiling point.
Yes.
Which is it's kind of
Like
it's
you said,
scary.
fighting within each other, right?
Right,
Like,
and the whole thing is not a good setup. And somehow we have to get past this.
yeah, definitely.
I don't know the answers. I'm not an attorney. I don't claim to have the answers. I feel as though, as everybody else feels, that the whole thing is fucked up right now. The whole thing to begin with as an opening was really fumbled.
I mean, as an outsider, right, looking into the cannabis market in Jersey, we've had some of the conversations of like why things were happening, or one thing was said and then they change. I mean, literally in writing, and then change it right up, like a week, not even, or you start the process of what you were supposed to do and then it changes. It's insane because
Right.
if you're
Same
setting
thing,
up
but
rules,
different.
right?
Yeah.
If you're setting up rules like that, we have to follow them, or at least
The
especially-
people running the show should be following their own
Right,
rules. Several people within the industry, especially over the last week and a half, and say, how is this affecting your business? You're a realtor and blah, blah, blah. And how it affects me, and not just me, but it affects my clients, it affects my landlords, is bring a client, a licensed client, and let's make that clear, a licensed client, to a space.
It's crazy how many times we have to make that clear.
Yeah, to a space that falls underneath all the regulation of DASNY. And they submit the application to DASNY for the location. And I've had it literally where DASNY approved the location, and 2 days later said, "Oh, that shouldn't have been approved.
Wow.
We're talking to XYZ across the street," or
Wow.
whatever the case, whatever the excuse is that
Right.
week. And it's not just me. I've heard the same line from several other of the big players in the
Right.
business, and it's obviously it doesn't look right. It
Right,
doesn't.
I mean-
I'm not saying it's shady. I don't know what it is because I'm not behind the scenes. But again, if you look at the optics and you look at everything from day one to now, none of this looks right.
So,
One and one is not adding up to two.
yeah. So in Jersey, I'll say it definitely looks shady, right? Like it's
Right.
it is insane that everything's happening behind the scenes, and this is supposed to be public stuff, right? We're supposed to discuss it and make decisions together, and you are doing backdoor deals. And I think there was an article recently that said these municipal council people, they're kingmakers right now, right? And that's literally what this is. And I think it's very naive not to recognize
What's really going on.
right. And I mean, I've been screaming it on the sidelines in Jersey, and again, here it's not so much that you don't know what's going on, but they say one thing and then it changes, and then who do we trust?
Right, and then they want to and look, I said this to somebody else today, and it feels like to me that there's a little show going on here, but to something shiny over here, but a lot of real stuff going on over here.
Yeah, it's like to distract you to not look at the other thing.
And I feel as though, certain people, they're like, look what I'm doing for you, right? But I'm like, well, that's kind of like spitting in my face and then coming over and wiping it off, and then me expecting a thank you for you wiping off the spit that you spit on my face.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly what it feels like, right?
And it's like, it's insulting.
And that's what I don't think the other side's recognizing, right? Like you are in right, the streets will say like you're disrespecting me and I'm trying to eat it because you are supposed to be making the rules, but then you do it over and over and over again.
And how many times, I'll give this analogy, and then we'll move on to the next subject.
Okay, great.
Tupac, I was a big fan of Tupac, still am. And he made this analogy one time. I remember watching this when I think I was around 14 or 15, maybe 14. And it was something he had said years earlier. And he said, what if you're hungry, right? and your neighbor across the street has all this food, and you know they have this food, and you're knocking on the door, hey, can I get some of that food? They're ignoring you. Hey, can I get some of that food? And they're bringing more food in, and they know you're hungry. Hey, can I get some of that food? At what point is it going to be that you're starving so much that you're going to kick the door and just take the fucking food?
I mean, the last 3 years of our lives have been like that, right? So
Right.
to add this on top of that, it is that spit in the face.
Right.
And I get it.
Not just for me. I'm not talking specifically about me.
No, as a whole.
I'm talking about as a whole. As
In
a,
the industry, hell yeah,
Right.
yeah. Like,
and meanwhile, you know, the industry is falling apart in our city. So, you know, that's where we're at. And I think at some point it's getting close to that point because, like I said, it's getting to a boiling point. I can just hear it in voices. I can see it in what's being said.
yeah.
And, you know, if this lawsuit goes through and, you know, with Empire and they win, that's going to flip the whole thing.
Yep.
You know, and there's going to be a lot of pissed off people on the other side. So, you know, we have to, I think the best thing to do is to try to address what's happening, address that it's fucked up, and try to fix it and move forward.
So
that's the only thing you can do.
Yeah, and a lot of my early pitch, right, to a client or to somebody, I have to make sure that they understand that this isn't the streets, right? We have to communicate in a way that the point will get across, and then we don't, and now we act like we're dealing in the streets, and we can't do that. So,
And I agree with that, but I also feel as though, you know, you can't exclude, how do you put this? You can't say, especially because of the industry that it is, the nature of,
Right.
of the business. You can't exclude certain ways of doing business.
Right.
And also, it goes back to what I was just saying about how much do you take before you say, all right, I'm not getting punched in the face anymore.
right, right.
How hungry are you going to get before you say, I'm not going to starve to death, I'm just going to take the food?
Yeah.
And again, it also goes back to the opening, the structure, and who did all that, and where does that go? Who does that lead to?
Right.
That's, you know, and these are just facts.
Yeah. And maybe talking about the elephant in the room helps the communication and helps the process and maybe doesn't let this boil over, right? Like,
Right,
That's the
right,
goal.
right. That's the goal, is not to let it get to that point.
yeah.
I also, you know, let's address a couple other things. I think as far as like what's going on in Jersey, the you know, as far as the cannabis industry over there is, I know you had a property over there that you worked very hard on to try to get it done for someone in the community,
Yeah.
and you had it all done, and then they changed the rules on you again.
So yeah, the property that we have in down south. Yeah, so they changed the rules on me, and it was it's a developmental. So again, and I mentioned it in the last podcast, I'm working with people who are investors, and I like the deal to make sense in all different types of ways. I don't want it to necessarily only depend on cannabis. I also, you know, if we can have a different out, God forbid it doesn't work out, that specific business, then we have an out somewhere else.
Right.
So this just happens to be in a redevelopment zone. And, you know, I got it papered up, and the town was working on their process, and they had no application process, yet they do have a law that allows it. The law actually is not specific on retail, and that's a loophole, so I'm utilizing that. And we're good to go. The lawyers for the town were doing an application so that they could have it set up on their end. In February, now I'm not from this area, it takes an hour to get over there for me. So in February, they had a meeting. It says it was a public meeting, and they changed the property to now a historical site. And I got an uploaded notification when they posted it in July.
Wow.
So I was, you know, upset, obviously, and now I have to start making a whole bunch of phone calls and just verifying, you know, moving forward. Historic is totally different. The rules are totally different. And now I'm adding cannabis into the mix. And I'm I'm still papered up, thank God, but I have to work all the different angles. And that's the very frustrating part about what we're doing right now, because it almost feels like if we can't start the process to open, no one's going to open. And this is why we're so slow and no one's on the same page. And then we have
It's almost like they're doing it on purpose, maybe.
Exactly. And there is a lot of red tape. Again, back to that kingmaker line, right?
Right.
You can block it pretty much however that person sees fit to a certain degree, right? So you're hurting the application process also. You're hurting the possibility of your town making more money. It's like the town voted for it, right? The people in your town wanted it. Just because you are very opinionated, now you're holding red tape up in
Right. Right. I mean, I personally, I think one of the issues is, as far as New York and New Jersey is, this is more of a real estate play, too.
Yeah. So that's the biggest thing. Every conversation, people do not, because they're trying it by themselves right now. They don't recognize how difficult it is. And they're trying it without our access.
Right. I've had several clients say, "Oh, I can do same thing.
Same.
I can go online and find
My cousin.
Go
I
ahead.
have my cousin.
Go ahead.
They could. Good luck.
Yeah.
Talk to you later, because it's gonna circle back around. It's
Right.
a lot of work.
A lot of work, and there's a lot of players involved. A lot of people you got to know. A lot of laws you got to know.
That's it.
And
too,
everybody
right?
knows a lawyer. Everybody, my cousin's a real estate agent from, Long Island or something, and sold 3 houses last month or whatever the case
They
is.
could totally do it, no problem.
Right.
They know what you do.
Right, and there's people don't realize. Obviously, there's a lot of mud to get into, and this is not. It's just like everything else in cannabis, where
quicksand.
people think that I'm just going to get into cannabis with anything, and I'm
Yeah.
just going to get rich overnight, or
Yep.
it's easy. And this is probably by far one of the hardest businesses I've ever dealt with.
I don't think I've ever worked this hard in my life. And I think you do have to have a little bit of a passion for it. And I never recognized what that was, because why am I trying so hard to help to make this happen? It's like we say, it's for the culture, right?
Right.
If it's legal, fuck yeah, I'm gonna talk about it.
Right, and we should try to push it forward.
Yeah.
Especially as I've been smoking since I was 13. It helps me with a lot of things. A lot. There's a list of things I can list off that it helps me with. And it was funny because, I'm dodging and weaving as a kid not to get caught smoking weed, but yet they're trying to shove, controlled substances down my throat. No sense at all. And I'm glad I didn't do it, because a lot of my friends that did became in hospitals,
worse, yeah.
OD'd,
Yep,
have
same.
all.
I have the same.
Right. And it's sad because so many people fought, so many people went to jail. We all know someone, we all have heard the stories. And just like everything else, greed is becoming part of the issue.
Always, right? And it almost hurts more because it's happening and we didn't even get anything yet.
Yeah, we haven't even got anywhere yet.
Right, and that,
we're just it's like we're not even. And meanwhile, there's other states, like I said, like Missouri, for instance.
I didn't realize it was that much.
In Nevada, Nevada, who's killing the game right now. I don't know if if Vegas is insane right now. You got places like Planet 13 that are on a whole nother level.
Wow.
There's nothing, you can put all the cannabis shops together in New York City and it's not a Planet 13.
wow.
Yeah, it's insane. They have a really cool place. And the people are really nice people. But it's because they had a different opening. They
Yeah.
had a more legit situation. So again, there's got to be some sort of fix. Otherwise, it's all going to fall apart. I know certain license holders don't believe that. But, look,
It's that
it
golden
is,
egg, right? Sometimes
right,
you gotta
and
keep
it doesn't
believing.
let me say this, it doesn't take much to change public opinion. And as we've seen with a lot of things over the last year, there's been a lot of things that were changed, that had changed, and we were moving them forward in a positive manner, and public opinion switched on it, even with all the momentum. So it doesn't take much for someone to say, hey, look, this is costing the taxpayers money. This
Right.
is causing more of a problem.
Than
blah,
it's
blah,
supposed to,
than right. And it doesn't take much for that to then change public opinion and things to go back right to the way they were.
Right, and that's-
which you can't say that's not impossible, because we're watching people get arrested for cannabis, even though it's underneath the guise of obstruction of justice or whatever the case may be. The reason you're there is for cannabis.
Yeah,
So it's the same thing.
right.
whether it be state police, local police, whoever. It's still bad. It's still a bad look, and it's still in my eyes, a going down the wrong road.
Right.
On that same subject, there was an article that came out yesterday that I saw several people post regarding California just basically giving up on the illegal market. I mean, I have clients in LA, in LA and in the greater California area that are growers that already knew this was coming because it was originally where they were going to slam the door on you if you got caught doing illegal cannabis in any way in California, to where it got to where it's been like, okay, we'll show up for 30 minutes, burn some of your crop, and keep it moving. No one gets arrested, you know what I mean? And there's a fine. So, and they show up with like 3 officers. You know what I mean? So what are you going to do in a half hour with 3 cops?
Right.
Not much.
Right.
So
these are like acres and acres
there's
and
acres, right?
Yeah, like
and,
there's a lot.
And it got to such a point with this guy, he was recording them as a joke with his drone.
Oh, crap.
He would follow them coming in on his drone down his driveway into the grow and record the whole thing just to post it every time, and then show himself re-putting it back up.
Right.
That the stuff that they were able to get to.
Crazy.
So, you know, California, as we know, their market is in the toilet. And if we don't fix our problems, we're not far behind. And we didn't even at least get to the point where they got to make money and they got to grow and they got to do things.
Yep.
So,
and why would we not learn from our neighbors' mistakes?
Right. And I mean, obviously we supported their market for a very long time.
Yeah.
It's no big secret that New York was purchasing 80% of their cannabis. So, you know, whatever the answer is, to be honest, I don't know. Again, I'm not an attorney. I'm not some kind of genius. I'm just a realtor, you know, trying to keep my business alive and trying to help it, you know, who I can when I can.
A realtor trying to speak what's happening, like the honest truth of what's happening on both sides, I
Right.
think. And I also feel like that's what's so exhausting of this whole thing. It's like you're fighting a fight and we're not even getting anywhere yet. And it's just, it's tiring.
Right.
We're the middleman.
Right. As always.
Yeah.
That's how real estate is.
I
As a
know,
realtor,
but,
that's what it is.
you know, it's cannabis business is, you know, this middleman job is an added job to the cannabis realtor part, right?
Right.
Like you are helping, you want everyone to thrive. Like that's what I want, everyone to thrive. So
Right.
that's
Well, I'm already, you know me. I've been doing this for years, and I'm neck deep in this shit. So like, I've got to, in my eyes, it's.
and that's what I mean.
Gotta
Like just keep
gotta
talking and keep
pushing,
talking and saying what's really happening, and
and
being
hopefully
honest
maybe
about
people
it.
will start listening. Who
Exactly.
knows? And,
Exactly.
let's switch gears a little bit. I know
Let's
this
do
is I know it's been a lot of. I don't like sitting on negative stuff for so long. There is positive things happening on both sides. There are card spots opening up, license holders that are getting open now. Long Island, Queens, Brooklyn, obviously Manhattan, and there is, you know, supposedly now there is money. Hopefully it gets out to the people that need it and deserve it, and hopefully it's
Nothing
not
changes until the very last minute.
Right, and hopefully there's no. Hopefully some of these attachments that come with this money
Right.
that shouldn't be coming with it. I know anything coming from the government is automatically assumed that something comes with it. It shouldn't, because this money is going to people that have already paid their dues.
Yeah, there
But
should be lots of
there's been a lot that comes with doing business with DASNY and with the state. You know, using their build outs, all this, doing their pop ups and all that stuff. I think the money should just be given.
Right.
There shouldn't be, well, okay, well, you took the money, now you have to give us $1.5 million for a build out. That's $300,000. You know, or you have to do a pop up for 6 months, or, you know, all this stuff. That wasn't the
deal.
the
Right.
deal. That wasn't what was spoken
Here we
about.
go, changing rules as we go. Right.
Right.
Like,
So, but again, back to positiveness. There are people opening. There are people making money. There has been progress in the last 2 to 3 weeks on that end.
yeah.
Which is a good thing.
Us too.
You know,
Expirations happen. There's no caps on certain things. There's positivity, definitely.
right. So I like to try to focus on that. I know we've been a lot on the negative, but that's just kind of what's going on right now.
And
a lot
I
of
think,
negative is so horrible.
yeah, like at the end of the day, people are talking about it, but there's not a lot of full communication,
Actions.
right? Like actions are definitely it, but nowhere like that the info of both sides. Maybe that'll help the action. I don't know. I just think
Let's see
keep
what-
it,
Well,
yeah.
let's see what happens. We'll know.
We'll keep putting the positivity on it.
Right. What's going on with the regular real estate market? Let's address that, because I have a lot of people that I do get a lot of. Obviously, we both do normal real estate also, the typical. On my side, I handle mostly with luxury real estate, and obviously regular commercial real estate. But that's also been a roller coaster too, as everybody knows.
Yeah, there is so much up and down, and yeah, realtors say that regardless. But even more so with there's no inventory. Everybody knows this. It's all over the news. There's still a lot of people who want to buy, or at least want to feel like they got something, because now their purchase power has gone down significantly. And there's a lot of ups and downs. I also commercial and residential, and I feel lucky because I do both, that whenever there's dips, you do what you got to
can
do.
alternate.
Yeah. But the residential people, they're suffering. A lot of people are dropping off the map. And I think if you can keep hustling now, it'll pay off later. But there's only so much you can do.
Well, being in this business as long as I've been in it, and being in business in general, you kind of, I don't see it as when there's a bear market, I don't see it in my eyes as such a negative thing. I think it cuts out some of the bullshit. It cuts out some of the people that, are, in my eyes, are just kind of riding the wave. Anybody can jump on the market when the wave is running, you know what I mean? But you
Yeah.
can see the people that are already jumping out, as far as realtors wise,
Yeah.
jumping in, getting other jobs, like getting real jobs, or whatever they want to call
I've been
real
seeing it
jobs.
for a few months already. And it's definitely happening more now. But yeah, I agree with you, right? There were so many people. There was saturation.
Everybody was a realtor all of a sudden.
Yeah,
it was
like-
crazy. It was like,
But I
who's a
also
realtor?
think that's why.
Wasn't she just doing OnlyFans last week?
Commercial and residential is key, though. I think do both. Like, why does it do what you
Right.
have to do? If there's multiple things you can do in real estate, right? Like you said, your job. There's still other stuff that you can do, but I get it. Like,
I mean, I have a passion for real estate. That's
Yeah.
why I take it I try not to take it personally, but I'm also a very competitive person. I grew up in sports and all that, and I'm a very, very competitive person.
and that's
And
the hustle mentality. Like, you
Right.
just keep going. You
Right,
through.
exactly. And as someone that got, saw through the 2008, 2009 crash
yeah.
and went through all that, I was also in other businesses at that point too, retail businesses that suffered because of that crash. The thing that I learned the most from that was make sure that all your eggs are not in one basket. Make sure that you have several different things going on.
Yeah.
You don't want to be pinned into a corner on one thing.
And that's also really key for cannabis, because
Yeah.
you can easily just focus on cannabis. And I have to pull myself away sometimes, because I'm not a fucking lawyer, and I shouldn't be reading fucking ordinances, and I shouldn't be reading in between the lines. But I am, and maybe that's
part
that
of the deal with
hustle
cannabis, but it's also-
mentality too.
right,
You know what I
like-
mean? Because there's people not doing that.
I don't think anybody.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just learn enough and keep going, or do something else. It doesn't. That's what I mean. Like, don't niche yourself into cannabis. Don't, commercial or residential. Do whatever you can do. Like, keep it moving. That's the whole.
Right,
thing.
I agree with that. You don't want to niche yourself into.
And real estate, that's what
business
they do.
is all right. I know that.
They do that a lot.
Well, I think what it is people, what I've learned from other agents that work with me and around me are people get, not just with cannabis, but with certain things. Like people get comfortable. Like people just get comfortable doing rentals, and they do rentals their whole life.
Yeah. I think then maybe that's it. I like the challenge of learning something. That, like, just if I deal with it once, then maybe I'll have that, right? It's back here.
right.
But
And I think, I think it also, with me, I don't like to give up on things.
okay,
I like to, no matter what it is, and sometimes it costs me. Sometimes it has cost me in the past, but overall, by doing that, in the overall picture, I've done good.
hell yeah.
And I think it's just because of,
Taking the losses as lessons,
Right.
just keeping it going. Yeah, but that's what I mean with the real estate, like. And so it's very, everything's like very heavy and depressing, right? Like a lot of people are falling off, things are changing, but I think keep the positivity, just like you. Figure it out, keep pushing through. Yes, inventory's low. Do what you're supposed to do more so that it's not like that, right? And people don't want to keep pushing through when they feel down.
right. I mean, the inventory issue, as far as, residential real estate, is going to be an issue for a while.
Yeah, but again, like, you just keep it going. It's a little
Right.
bit harder,
Right.
but just keep
But
it
I-
going.
I think
Get
at
on
the-
the phones, right? Like, do the things
Go
you don't
old school
want to
with
do.
it.
Yeah,
And I think
Get
I
in the
think that's one of
streets.
the right. I think that's one of the things of being in it for so long that gives me an edge, and other people an
Yeah.
edge that have been in it for so long, is that there's things that the new people have no clue about.
Especially the ones that came in the last couple of years. Right? Like,
All they know is the tech part of it,
Yep,
and
yep.
I'll just get on and I'll buy these leads.
And that's
They
it.
have no clue how to get a real lead. They have no clue knocking on doors.
yeah, it was so easy.
You
That
know,
makes sense.
right? And I mean, I know one of my
And that's a scary thing, right? You people don't normally want to go to a stranger's house and just knock on the door. So you have to face your fear and suck it up a little bit. And that's what I mean. Like, go, like you said, old school with it. Like,
Right. And I know
talk to people.
I know a lot of agents doing that right now. I know a lot of agents that are,
Succeeding.
but I also know that in times like this, it creates invention.
Yes.
It creates, in 2008, 2009, the reason we are where we are in real estate right now, as far as tech and all that kind of things, is it created new people in the industry that came up with new ideas to make the industry easier for everybody.
Right.
A lot of people disagree with that, like the Street Easies of the world and things like that. They think it gives too much information. I agree. I think
I
that
don't know. Information's useful, right? Like, regardless.
right, but in New York, the issue the issue was you're paying for a broker for in people's eyes, in most people's eyes, was that, especially clients, was I'm paying this broker for information, and now in their eyes they feel they can go to Street Easy and get that information. But what they're not understanding is there's a whole game behind, just like we were talking about with the cannabis.
Right.
You're going to Street Easy and you're looking at what's on Street Easy, right? Meanwhile, you're looking at the same building and you're seeing, like, say, there's a building in FIDI that I deal with a lot.
Okay.
They give me a lot of, like, hey, look, this is going to be coming up in the next 3 months. This unit, this unit, this unit, and this unit. If you can get us a client before we put it on the market, we'll give them a month free, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's what you're paying for.
Right.
If you're going to Street Easy, you're finding it when everybody else is finding it.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's like finding out on the news about something. It's too late.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? That off-market back piece, and a lot of people, the conversations is what
the
creates
relationship,
that,
right? The relationships of me, like, the reason I have that relationship with that building and several other buildings is, I send them pizza for lunch, or
Right.
I bring them drinks, or we go out, or whatever the case may
And
be. Build
that's
that
the
relationship.
innovation that he was talking about. Invention. Do
Right.
something different. See, be a human being.
Right.
And think about the other person you're talking to, and maybe be nice, right? Like, that's all.
Right. So, like, when people say, why do I need an agent when I can just go on Street Easy or
The relationship, right?
or Zillow or anything like that, there's a lot that you're missing that you don't know that you're missing. So if you go in there as a regular client, maybe there's something that you don't fall within the criteria normally. Like, maybe you're not making the 40 times the rent like you need to make in New York, and the relationship that a broker has with that building can maybe overcome that for
Right,
you,
right.
and also prevent you from having to wait in line or fight over an apartment, because you're going to be able to get it
So you
before it
know.
gets to the
Right.
market. So that's the importance of an agent. That's an importance of a good agent.
Right.
Is someone that has those relationships, that spends that time, and taking care of the other side.
I kind of like how you said that, like, you don't know what you're missing out on because you never had it. I do
Right.
see the other side of that. When you've had a bad realtor and a good one, you know how important and how much they can get done for you if they're a good realtor.
It's like cheaping out on an attorney.
Right.
You can get a cheap attorney, but it's the difference between the guy going in with the free attorney to court and the guy going with a paid attorney.
Right.
You can be facing the same charges, and you'll end up in jail with your free attorney, but
And
the
he
guy
gets
with
a
the paid
slap on the
attorney
wrist.
just gets to go, is on his way home.
Yep. Yep, that's the difference.
So
and it's the same, right, for the same charge, same thing, and
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Right. So you kind of get what you pay for.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as the overall look on the market, I saw yesterday that inflation is on its way down. It's went down quite a bit. It's not obviously where we want it to be, but it's at 3% versus 10% 6 months ago. So I think in another 3 months, hopefully that it should be down enough for where the Fed will be like, okay, now we can bring down the interest rate. People are concerned about the interest rate, but you're not married to an interest rate. You can refinance at any time.
How many times realtors say that?
Right,
It's crazy.
but
You're
it's-
not
but it's
married
the
to
truth,
It is
though,
100%.
right? And
You're
I
not.
get-
It changes. You're gonna change, and people who are, money savvy, you know that you kind of work with that, right?
Right.
And you make your money work for you.
Right, exactly. And that's the whole point of real estate to begin with is to
Yeah. Don't worry about the interest rate. If the numbers make sense, do it for you.
Right.
And then change it later when there's
Right.
other opportunity.
Right, which is going to be. It's not going
Right.
to. This isn't going to be permanent, and the interest rates are still lower than they were 25 years ago.
Yep.
By a lot, by a ton. And I know that's easy for us to say or easy to say, but
Right.
it's-
This
it
is the only world that some of these people
Well,
don't
no,
right. Yeah.
right.
So,
yeah. I remember when I bought my first home and the interest rate and being a young person, and it was easier to get the money then, but it was also more costly to get the
Yeah.
money then.
Yeah.
So I think in closing with that, I think that, I probably the end of the quarter, they're probably gonna when the numbers come out, as long as everything is continuing to trend like it is on a downward as far as inflation. I think they need to see food go down because groceries
Yeah.
stayed around the same.
Yeah.
They have gone down a little bit, but they need to continue to go down. I think the price of gas went down. Fuel is down
Yeah.
compared to last summer. It's down
Well,
by I
one
think
of
$1
our-
a gallon.
It's interesting hearing this because I always think to myself the rate of rentals went up so much, and you need
Yeah.
so much money to survive right now. And
It's crazy.
rentals are how much of your income, right? So that's a key thing also. But if everything else goes down, it helps that because that's
Right.
not.
And that's why I always tell people, I was just having this conversation with my client the other day. She closes next week. She started out, she's been a client for me a long time, rented her a bunch of apartments. And it turns out that, I was like, look, what's your budget for this apartment now? And she's like, if I can stay below 3,000. And I was like, have you ever done the math on what that would be over 30 years?
They never do.
And
that.
she was like, no. I said, do the math real quick on your phone.
Most
It was well over
realtors-
$1 million.
Most realtors don't do the math.
Right. And I'm like, and I pointed it out to her. I was like, that's a $1.2 million apartment.
Yeah.
And I was like, so if
What an eye-opening statement, right?
right.
Like,
So we found her something at $550,000, nice duplex apartment, brand new, renovated, good, good neighborhood, all that. And she's paying less in mortgage than she was paying in rent. And that's her money.
Right.
It's people are like, you're not throwing, it's not like rent. This is just instead of putting it in a bank account, you're putting it in your home.
Right.
So when you sell, you're getting that money back. People don't look at it that way for some reason. And
the old school, they
Right,
did, right?
right.
They knew that was an asset. They knew that that's where, kind of like
in the old school, why would you rent? Like people
Right.
look at you like you had three heads.
crazy. It's also, just how, I don't know, maybe it became easier not to worry about your stuff for a little bit. And now people with COVID and everything, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I need something that's mine.
Right. Well, not just that, but the way I explained it to my clients and to this girl was, you're not going to have to worry at the end of your lease next year or
Yeah.
or even if you sign a 2-year lease, oh, my rent's going to go up $500.
Right.
I'm going to have to move and I'm still going to be paying more rent. I'm moving from one shitty apartment to the next shitty apartment. Your rent is your rent now. This is your mortgage. This is what it is.
Especially in New York's market, right? Like it's not
Right.
easy. It's
No,
not easy to
no.
move here, to change. Just, it's a lot. I don't know.
I don't know why you just wouldn't want to buy and get it over with and be in one place.
And if you want to leave, rent it out and then have
find another
income,
place,
right?
and have that place pay for your next place. and help you with your taxes. So it's a bunch that helps you when you go into.
We don't just
purchasing.
open doors. We help you make money.
Yes. And even in the cannabis, world, like, I had a client that has an option right now to purchase, this is in California, to purchase the retail space that they were once looking at renting. We spoke to the landlord recently, got him to agree that, look, you know what, maybe I will be willing to sell this. And for them over time, it makes sense for both the landlord and for the person purchasing.
Yeah.
Especially this guy, the landlord is an older gentleman, and he's looking to get out now.
It gets tiring,
Right,
right?
exactly.
Like some people love the landlord life, and then some is 30 years and they're done.
Right, like it's a lot of work being a landlord.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this person now is purchasing a spot that they're going to be able to do business out of
Amazing.
and they're going to be able to, they're paying themselves the rent. There's a lot of that goes into owning versus renting. It's as far as financially, it helps you a lot. It helps you with your taxes. It helps you with
Hell yeah.
tons of things. Just all how you set it up. If you set up in a trust, whatever. There's all kinds of ways to do it.
Yeah.
But I think we've covered a lot today.
We did. And it definitely went positive. I love that. I'm
Right,
happy.
I'm trying to stay
compared to how
positive.
we were.
Trying to stay positive with
Love
all
it.
the negative
I love it.
going on. But I want to, end this with saying, look, let's stay positive. Let's all, the idea is to do this as a team, and to do this,
We were so segregated, right? Like,
Right.
try to work together.
Right. We have to try to get this together and try to, and I know everybody has, I'm not stupid. I'm not naive. I know everybody has their own agenda. Everybody wants to do their thing, and I totally get that. But if that ends up pulling the thing apart that you're trying to do to begin with, that's very short-sighted, and it's a short-term thing anyways.
And so are these internal gains that are happening also. If you are doing stuff that maybe you shouldn't be doing, you're hurting a lot more people than you realize. Like, just follow the rules, right? Like, can we try to follow the rules?
The thing is, though, it is, again, and to wrap this up, it is in a bow. It's hard to follow the rules right now.
Right.
Because the rules are all over the place.
Right. Especially if the rule makers are breaking the rules. I get it. Right?
So it's very hard. So I get where everybody's coming from. I understand both sides. I want to end this by thanking Wink, one of our sponsors. I want to thank THC for hosting us in their great space and allowing us to use this space. They're one of our amazing sponsors. They've been great to us. They're great to the community. If you ever have a chance, come by and check out the museum. It's a great spot.
Definitely.
It's like my second home now, as you guys can probably tell. And their CEO, Anthony, is an amazing person. That's it. If you guys have any questions, hit us up in the DMs. Obviously, click and follow, and share. If you have anything you want us to add to our podcast that we're missing, definitely hit us up and let us know. And definitely would love to hear. But thanks for watching, and click that follow.
See you guys.